Ex-Interior Minister accepts state's involvement in the execution of West African migrants. Zimbabwe's growing tobacco industry is calling the government to ban exported seedlings.
After months of struggles to get a vaccine,
doses of COVID-19 vaccine through WHO COVAX initiative. These and more coming on The World Today. Stay with us. Good evening, you're watching The World Today. I am Sohna Tunkara, and now to our news in detail. The Truth, Reconciliation and Reparation Commission still continue to hear revelations of witnesses who directly or indirectly have knowledge on the alleged massacre of the West African migrants in July 2005. And on Wednesday, former CDS and Minister of Interior Boubacar Jatta testified before the commission, saying he was briefed about the arriving of the migrants when he was celebrating the 22nd July anniversary. And according to him, Jammeh's government was responsible for the massacre of the migrants. Khadija Riseka reports.
Appearing before the commission, Boubacar Jatta said he believes that the migrants were not mercenaries and virtues of their possession. He confirmed that the massacre of 8 migrants, which took place at the shores of Bulfoot, was ordered by the state.
The question is, these killings were sanctioned from State House. From everything that we have seen.
Yes.
Could you answer now for the cameras? Let everybody see you.
Yes. I'm meant to believe. I believed that was from the State House.
About a State House.
By Yaya Jammeh.
Is the president for sure?
The witness said that the migrants were not a threat as proclaimed because they did not carry any weapon that would make them suspicious, but instead they surrendered themselves without resistance during the course of their arrest.
There were 44 plus.
67.
Oh, it has gone up now.
Well, that is what it was.
And by virtue of their size, could have overpowered the station at Bara.
Police korda wala kanta korda isiolu mole libo town Kambara.
But when they went to arrest them, they accepted and they came. So the stations. I think that if I were here to fight, at least I would have carried a hidden weapon. And those who went to arrest them were not armed.
Such as
Pistols.
Mr. Jatta added that the then Inspector General of Police Usman Sonko had been involved in committing murder, and he was also involved in the massacre of the West African migrants.
that same person who was involved in the execution of Almamu Mane, Usman Sonko, was also involved in this.
He was involved.
And you knew he was a killer.
Yes. The mere fact that that was done under his command or him through himself is responsible.
Boubacar Jatta was the longest-serving army chief under Jammeh since the military coup. In an interview on Coffee Time, Colonel Jatta alleged that Jammeh had killed more soldiers than civilians, but it was never disclosed because he believes that there is discipline in the army. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Khadija Tuseka.
The Gambia's ex-interior minister, Babukar Jatta, accepts the state's involvement in the massacre of West African migrants. Now, as access to COVID-19 vaccine remains a challenge in most countries around the world, WHO said it's tirelessly putting efforts to ensure equitable distribution and vaccination process, mainly in developing countries. The latest COVID-19 update by the Director General Tedros seems encouraging, as many less privileged countries have started receiving vaccines, and at least 142 low-income countries are expected to receive the COVAX doses as soon as possible. What seems like the period of uncertainty is receiving a hard punch as the WHO and other relevant stakeholders are tirelessly spearheading the fight against the devastating coronavirus pandemic. The COVAX initiative, which aims to make vaccines available in developing countries, will deliver 237 million doses to 142 countries in need by the end of May 2021. WHO chief said few countries have already received their vaccine deliveries.
Yesterday, Colombia became the first country in the Americas to receive its COVAX deliveries. And today, we expect deliveries to Angola, Cambodia, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and Nigeria. In total, COVAX will deliver 11 million doses this week. And between now and the end of May, 237 million doses of vaccines will be allocated to 142 participating economies and countries in COVAX.
The head of the World Health Organization has been repeatedly raising concern on the unfair distribution of vaccines by privileged countries, leaving developing countries in suspense. According to him, developed countries are rolling out vaccination to low-risk groups, while vulnerable sets of people like healthcare workers and the elderly in low-income countries are yet to receive any supply.
The distribution of vaccines has not been as equitable as we would have liked, but it has certainly been more equitable than it would have been otherwise. And we still have many challenges to overcome, including the local production barriers related to intellectual property that His Excellency had already said.
Several other members of the online conference expressed their enthusiasm for what they call a historic week. The number of reported cases of COVID-19 has again increased after a decline 6 weeks ago. Currently, at least 115 million cases have been recorded so far, with a death toll of at least 2.5 million. More than 91 million people have recovered as well. For African News, Sahna Tunkara. The WHO continues its shipments of COVID-19 vaccine across the globe. And on that move, the Gambia has on Tuesday received 36,000 doses of COVID-19 vaccines through the COVAX initiative. COVAX is the only global initiative that is working with governments and manufacturers to ensure equitable access to COVID-19 vaccines for both higher and low-income countries. Ndaisise reports.
After months of struggles to get a vaccine to contain the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic which ravaged the world with millions of deaths, the Gambia has finally received its shipment of 36,000 COVID-19 vaccine doses through WHO's COVAX initiative. COVAX is a global initiative aimed at equitable access to COVID-19 vaccines led by the Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunization, the World Health Organization, the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Innovations, and others. The vaccination is expected to commence in the next coming weeks, with frontline healthcare workers and vulnerable groups among the first groups to receive jabs in the Gambia. The imported vaccines is a 2-dose vaccine which should be taken twice between 7 to 8 days intervals. Speaking at the handing over of the vaccines, the Minister of Health, Dr. Ahmadullah Samate, says the vaccination will first target prioritized groups including the elderly.
COVAX will provide vaccines for 20% of the population of the Gambia. The allocation will be able to vaccinate all those who are aged 40 years and above, including priority groups. This summing up to over 480,000 Gambians as projected in the 2013 census.
The WHO country representative Dr. Desta Turini says Gambia is among the countries that fulfill the requirements to have access to the vaccines. Dr. Turini says COVAX is working for safe distribution of the vaccines to end the virus globally.
And the most important aim at the end of doing all this is to end the acute phase of the pandemic, meaning the burden on the health service, the burden on the whole system will be relieved. If we have less people who are getting severe disease, we don't have to admit many people in the health facilities. If we don't do that, we'll be able to take care of others with other conditions of essential health services. And that if we do that, we'll be able to rebuild the economy very quickly. So this is the objective of the COVAX arrangement, and that's why we are very happy today to see this happening. So together with our partners, the WHO and its partners, through the COVAX facility, is working to support the equity.
Listen to, and to be able to really absorb this information. The vaccine is secure. The vaccine helps to prevent COVID illness, and it also helps to curb transmission. And this is very important that you in the media transmit this information, because there's a lot of misinformation out there regarding the vaccine. So the key element, the vaccine is safe. The people who will be administering are professionally trained in the administration of the vaccine, and the people who receive the vaccine will be protected against COVID-19 illness.
Over the weekend, the Ministry of Health through COVAX received over 30,000 syringes and 375 safety boxes for their disposal ahead of arrival of vaccines. Gambia is expected to receive more COVID-19 vaccines in the next couple of months. These vaccines are expected to eliminate the deadly virus which has ravaged the globe with over 1 million deaths. The WHO's COVAX initiative is making efforts to ensure that countries, especially developing countries, get access to the COVID-19 vaccines. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Mariama Cham.
From that, moving on, the Iraqi city of Najaf has its streets adorned with both flags and Vatican flags, ahead of Pope Francis' first ever papal visit to the country on Monday and Tuesday. The Pope is expected to visit the country from 5th to 8th March, with his Najaf visit scheduled for March 6, where he is expected to meet with Grand Ayatul Sadi Ali al-Husseini al-Sistani.
The 84-year-old Pope Francis hoped to make a trip to Iraq in 2020, but his plans were halted by security concerns and the coronavirus pandemic. The governor of Najaf, Luay Al-Yassir, says they are prepared for the Pope's visit and have put measures in place to make sure the Pope's visit goes in an orderly manner.
بدأت تزيين الشوارع بالأعلام العراقية وكذلك أعلام الفاتيكان.
The streets began to be decorated with Iraqi flags and Vatican flags, and also after 2 days, there will be billboards posted in a regular and decent manner welcoming the guests, in addition to banners containing quotes of Imam Ali on the right to humanity. We have conducted a large organizational case and a greater security situation. We thank God for these preparations. Valuable gifts will be presented to His Holiness too at the same time. At the same time, there will be a surprise in terms of organization.
One of the aims of the trip is to comfort Christians who, amid wars and conflicts, have been forced to flee from Iraq and other Middle Eastern countries. Jamal Kamel says the Pope's visit will have economic benefits for the country and will also pave ways to end the sectarian and religious conflicts.
The visit of the Pope of the Vatican has economic, social, political, and religious dimensions. I believe that these dimensions have positive effect on Iraq as a country and on Najaf as a governorate. For me, such a visit as such people have a positive impact, especially meeting Grand Ayatollah Sayyid Ali al-Husseini al-Sistani. With the personality of the Pope, there will certainly be changes, and there will be no sectarianism, no interreligious discord. And as you can see that the Najafi society receive all sects and religion.
Apart from Najaf, the Pope is expected to visit Baghdad, Ur, Erbil, Mosul, and Karagoz. Iraq is home to many different Eastern Rite churches, both Catholic and Orthodox. Iraq's small Christian population of several hundred thousand suffered particular hardships when Islamic State militants controlled large parts of the country between 2014 and 2017. Pope John Paul II tried to visit Iraq in 2000, but an agreement with then Iraqi leader Saddam Hussein could not be reached. Pope Francis will be the first pope to make a historic visit to Iraq. For iAfrica TV, I am Omar Ahmad Toure.
From that report by Omar Ahmad Toure, we travel to Zimbabwe, where the growing tobacco industry is calling on the government to ban exported seedlings to boost local production as cigarette manufacturing. Local tobacco producers are counting on the government's support in promoting the value addition that could help widening operations. And experts say more players and branding are needed to attract businesses to the sector.
Every year, Zimbabwe grows millions of kilograms of tobacco, only 1% of which is processed locally. Some farmers' associations want the government to impose export ceilings to encourage local value addition, such as cigarette manufacturing. However, some industry experts argue it takes more than having ready access to the raw material to sustain cigarette making, and restricting exports could be futile in the short term.
We might just end up with a stockpile of unsold tobacco. I think we need more players. I think we need more brands. I mean, cigarettes are about branding. They're the easiest things in the world to make. But it's the branding that costs billions, as you know. You know, if you look at Philip Morris, BAT, Japan Tobacco, etc., all their money is spent on branding. And if you don't have the brands, your cigarettes don't sell.
One player is leveraging Zimbabwe's biggest tourist attraction to appeal to smokers. Mosia Tunya is the indigenous name for the Victoria Falls and the brand name for these handmade cigars.
The reason why we started this venture is to contribute towards value addition.
If Zimbabwe's ambitions to process more of its own tobacco are to be realized, startups like these need more assistance.
Government can play a much more important role in trying to push the value addition, and by making information easily available, and by support, expert support, and financial support to kind of like help small companies like ours, maybe some tax breaks and tax holidays here and there.
At a higher level, arrangements to produce cigarettes locally are being pursued with the biggest buyer of the country's tobacco.
A lot of people have been working, including cabinet ministers, have been working on trying to persuade our Chinese partners to manufacture cigarettes here. And I think the number, something if they manufacture just 1% of their cigarettes here, it would create a ginormous industry.
In recent years, China, through Tianji, a subsidiary of the China National Tobacco Corporation, has helped expand output by financing thousands of small-scale growers.
That was all on today's World News Bulletin. Up next is Gambia 24 with Mariama Cham at 19:30 GMT. Thanks for watching and bye for now.
The Gambia may be the smallest country in Africa, but it will host the second largest gathering of world leaders in 2022. To successfully host the OIC Summit and put the Gambia on the global stage, the government of the Gambia set up OIC Gambia to mobilize resources for the implementation of key development and infrastructure projects on a scale never seen